Well, Luke, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks
It's great to be here.
Heck
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I wish it was sunnier outside for you.
This is right. This is
nice
great.
and dreary in Georgia today. So heck yeah, man.
Knocking the rust off a little bit here, man.
We are knocking the rust off. It's been about 2 months since we've recorded a show.
Yeah.
We've been in re-air land for a little while. I don't know if everybody really noticed.
For good reason, though.
For good reason. Mental health, we'll say.
Well, that's good. I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm honored. I get to sort of bring it back.
You're bringing it back.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Good.
And we've been traveling around doing our roadshow bit with Bluebeam.
You've got to hang out with you.
I met you guys for the first time about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Now
that was really cool.
Yeah, we've gotten to hang out a lot. So we're talking about we've already got this rapport built for the show. So this is gonna be good.
Here's what I know is that Luke is way better on stage than we are.
Absolutely.
I'm a ham.
100%.
I'm a sucker for a bad joke. Anything self-deprecating, I will find a way to do.
Oh, I'm there for it. I'm there for it.
Maybe your audience don't know the story, but Bluebeam had you guys host and intro the Bluebeam live events.
Yeah.
There were 6 of them, but you did 4.
Yeah, and only half of the people left after we got on stage.
That's right.
So it was
there were plenty of groans. But it was actually really fun though. I loved it because it was just total
buffoonery.
Bluebeam. Yeah, it was just Bluebeam fan base. Yeah. The excitement over the features was great.
Yeah.
So when you guys came out, you did your bracket thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no place you could be on a Tuesday morning and people are raising hands saying, I like the snapshot tool or I like overlay. It's just where are we right now? This is as specialized as it gets.
Keyboard shortcut.
Yeah. Keyboard shortcut. So clapping. It was
the
more
nerdy it got, the more people got into it.
Oh yeah.
I am amongst my people right now.
There was a safe space thing there where 8 a.m. you kind of said, hey, you're good to get deep in the features. You're okay with that.
Okay.
You can do this here. You can't really do that anywhere else, but you can do it here. And people were just oh, okay, great. And they were so into it. It was fun.
We were trying to mimic this over the shoulder sort of thing, right? When we're in our office here, we walk around, you see somebody doing something, you see them push a button or click a thing and it does some weird something or other. And you're like, holy crap, what was that?
Yep.
And so we were trying to mimic that, which was really fun because I feel like so many people walked out of even just that first 10 minutes and they were like, oh, I didn't even know about this one little button over here that did this and this and this. And it saved them hours in some cases,
for sure.
right? Putting a snapshot in an email.
That's right.
Who knew?
Well, it's also fun to see what people pick up on. And the one we did in Miami, Peter was with me. And Peter, I leaned over to Peter during this whole thing. I'm like, you built half the stuff, didn't you? He's like, yeah, me and a handful of other devs. And these things have been there for years.
Yeah.
You're just not sure to what extent these things really matter to that one person for this one thing. And it's their whole world depends on this one little feature.
Yeah. That was fun to meet Peter.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was just one of those unexpected little things. You're like, wait, you've been here since the beginning. He was back in Revit days when it first came out.
Yeah.
And just quiet and unassuming. And he's just there.
He's a brilliant engineer.
Freaking brilliant.
Yep.
Runner, ultras and stuff.
Yeah. Not little marathons.
I can imagine him putting together apps in his head while he runs 50 miles. He's just I could just do this and code that and do that.
Dude, I respect that.
Oh, I can't. Yeah,
best thing time. Just kind of vacate and just do the thing.
Yeah,
I'm with it. Yeah.
I love it that I can ping Peter and say, hey, Peter, can we talk about this thing in Bluebeam? Tell me what you think. Am I crazy? And he's like, yeah, no, you're crazy for this one, but we could do this. And it's like, oh, that's even better.
Exactly.
It's pretty fun. There's some pretty talented engineers because PDF is deep. It's not just a web service with a front end, back end sort of thing. It's just really deep. In some cases, some old language in there too that's happening. But it's what everybody uses. It's where people are at. So
I think that's the engaging part is you're changing people's day.
Yeah.
It's just something we all do all the time. It's something we deal with every single day. We were talking about 6-hour users. I think you would ask that. And I'm like, 100%. I get in, turn the software on, it's on all day.
Yep.
All day long. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
first thing on, last thing off.
We built for them. Exactly. Totally.
So it's just, it is what I use to interact with the construction world all day. And it's it's not background either, because there's a lot that I do in it every day that, sketching something up for an RFI or, collaborating a session to, maybe I didn't really want to, I got the phone up and I'm talking to one of my guys and like, we're both in the same session. Hey, follow me over here.
Yeah. Sure.
Check out what I'm doing. There's just a lot of little things that we do that change the day.
So I'm a little excited because on the pre-call, we had talked about you flipping the script on us just a little bit. You had some questions. And so like we had a few of them kind of teed up and teased. I'm curious to see what you came up with here.
Yep.
Because I don't know.
I'm all of a sudden nervous, man.
You're nervous?
I'm nervous on my own podcast.
Okay.
On Tyler's podcast.
So this is podcast. Yeah, that's right.
Stop it.
I want to know when was the last time you discovered a new feature in Bluebeam? And you can't say like at the Bluebeam live event or something, or doing the podcast, because I know Andrew and David were here. Because sure, you're going to learn stuff there, but I want to know, within the context of work, you're using the app. How was it that you discovered a new feature, and what was it? I
don't know if this one will. I might just defer to you on this one, because I haven't been detailing for like 3 years now.
Sure.
All right.
Fair enough.
So like being in Bluebeam every single day is not my norm. But I'm still trying to rack my brain on like the last feature that I was.
Okay, I'm going to go politician on this, and I'm going to answer the question I want to answer instead of answering the actual question.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the time frame off.
Stop it. Really?
No, I got a good story that goes with the discovery of one that I feel like is probably the best one, but it's maybe not the most recent. We're on a web call.
Oh, you really are watching an engineer on this one. That's impressive.
I'm watching an engineer work in Bluebeam, and we're sitting there talking through an issue, and there were a couple things he was doing while holding shift. And so I noticed like his lines were snapping.
They're snapping.
Yeah, and
45s.
holding right angles and
right
45s.
angles,
And I was like, how's he doing that? I've been kind of clunking around.
I see.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh, light bulb. And I asked him immediately, like, what are you doing? And then another one, he was taking a text box and then it was like a leader line call out and then adding leader lines.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And flying them off via shift and hitting the node, like hold shift, hit the node, and then a new arrow would fly off. The first time he did that, I was like, whoa, timeout. Because, you got the text box and then you draw an arrow to it.
Draw an arrow off it.
So that was one that I was like,
so it's like a web call.
Yeah. I mean, it was just somebody not on the team. That I just was watching him work and going, oh, man. And then another one, this is more recent. I was talking to somebody. We're doing work with J.E. Dunn. I'll go ahead and say the names. J.E. Dunn out on Myrtle Beach Airport. Okay. And so we're doing a little collaborative call, and we've got these steel tools.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show him a conflict with like a RTU and how this little isolating thing comes down and will like just drill a beam. And but the beam's not in the section view.
Okay. Yep.
Grab the beam out of our toolbox and then just pop it in there and like show it, just transpose it.
Yeah.
And he was like, whoa, wait a minute. Where'd you get that?
Where'd you get that beam?
I was like, actually, Construction Brothers has a whole toolkit. You're like, we can send you this. So I fired it over to him. But,
I love that.
And it's
you have your own tool set?
Yeah.
There's a Construction Brothers podcast tool set.
There is. Yeah.
Is it
I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to see it. This sounds great.
We can find it. I mean, we've got it sitting somewhere in the mothballs.
Does it also include like your logos and stuff like that?
It doesn't.
Okay. Our faces are in it.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Yeah.
I feel like I need to work a good dashboard.
Yeah.
I haven't really committed to that. But this is like, it's a lot of steel-based stuff. An angle, a channel, a profile, things like that. Weld symbols.
Yeah. Yeah,
we can't take credit for making that stuff. I think that was pulled from another source. I think it was on Bluebeam's website.
Yeah. There was a number that were available for years.
But it was like all of them were. We piled a lot of it.
We
together.
piled some of our favorites. Right?
Like here's some of our fun ones. That's
cool.
Use all the time.
We just posted on Community a huge emoji tool set. It's got hundreds, maybe 1,000 plus emojis.
Oh my god!
It's fun because you can use the new tool set search and just search it.
They're everywhere. The emojis are everywhere.
Just pop it up. So who knows? Maybe you're going to start seeing emojis on design review and constructability reviews.
Just an angry face emoji, like, why did you do that?
That's right.
Instead of the all caps, you have an angry face. Now, oh boy.
I might spark a debate on what this is actually called, but GIFs.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's next, right?
GIFs.
So we go to emojis.
I'm okay. That would be awesome.
It's just, have something, from Dumb and Dumber that you can slap on a CD when you don't like what's going on.
Either that or Charlie Day, like him pointing at like the charts on the wall or whatever. I think that would be a good one too. I'd like that.
I like
that.
it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, the reason I ask is now that obviously people are working remotely and things have changed, we've lost a bit of that, like you learn something over somebody's shoulder.
Yeah.
And I think people are learning things differently, especially when I think about how I use tools like Excel, for example. Like, I'm not looking to expand my use of Excel. It does what I need it to do. And sure, maybe I'm just scratching the surface. But it's when I was in an office and you'd walk past or you'd see someone doing something like, that would be helpful for me to learn. So maybe then you would Google it or you just ask the person.
Yeah.
So one of the things we want to figure out, even this is more of a longer term, there's a lot of things that go into this, but it's just overall feature discoverability. How do we help a user who claims to be a 5% user? People say to us all the time, I'm only scratching the surface. I use 5% of the app. It's like, well, maybe you use 20% of the app and you don't know it. Or maybe you're only 1%. Well, A, let's help you understand really where you're at. And then B, let's get you like, what does it look like to get to 6% and then 7%? And then just where it's appropriate to get you to that next level of functionality so that you can take advantage of things like, I got a little I-beam on my tool chest. I can just drag it out and plop it, and I have a little design I can work with and start communicating on something.
Well, the bugs are a big part of that too. The user groups is another way that you guys are kind of doing that to get some of the training spread out there.
Yeah,
get them past that 5% mark.
Yeah, those are fun.
That dude, when you get past the 5% mark, though, it gets fun.
Yeah,
it gets really fun.
It's a super fun app. Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably what has drawn me in for so many years is that it's just fun to use. Like there's little things you discover, and
I know Andy ratted himself out. This was like probably 6 years out. It was about 6 years ago, where he was like, I detailed an entire job in Bluebeam. I was like, stop it. Really? Like he detailed, it was a small job, so nobody freak out. Yeah. But it was a small job and he detailed it in Bluebeam. I was like, how did perspective home? Huh?
Yeah. I like when we were kind of looking at maybe building, I was like, how am I going to sketch this out? I'll just grab Bluebeam, put a blank sheet on there and just start sketching.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was just easy.
I remodeled my bathroom using it. I did the whole layout of the studs, then the waterproofing and the hardy board, and then the thin set depth. And then because I had to plan out the tile in the shower, but I had to make sure my depth was accurate because I had to hit a window jamb.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wanted whole tiles plus the edge, and I had to do grout lines. And sure, it was a bit labor intensive, but what else was I going to use? Right. I could do it on paper, I guess, but I had this really cool
on that. This bathroom, right? So switching gears here, Clifton Harness. I want to shout him out over at TestFit. I don't know if you've seen them around. Really cool generative AI program. He's been posting on LinkedIn lately. Like he took some time off. And he was using AI to build AI. It was like a cabinet.
It was like a cabinet layout tool.
Yeah. I don't know if he used like ChatGPT or what he did, but he like used AI to build a generative AI engine to lay out cabinets.
Yeah.
And like that was just his pet project during his time off.
Yeah.
That's hilarious because like I saw Aaron Witt posting about how like when he goes on vacation, he always tries to look for somewhere that's got heavy equipment.
Yeah.
It's like, you just really like what you do.
My hat's off.
I'm on vacation. I want to play with AI today. You have an AI tool. That's work. Anyway.
Yeah. You see an excavator and you're like, wait a second, hold on. What is that?
I'm always on the hunt for Bluebeam users. If ever I'm like walking somewhere and there's someone with a hard hat and usually they're out there, I'm like, hey, what app are you using? What do you
I did that the other day. I freaked a guy out down the road. Like right outside that job down the road that they're working on. I think he was one of the steel erectors, actually. He was out there, and he had a wave cell on. Like it's just one of the wave cell hard hats.
Okay,
type 2. We've interviewed one of the guys that made or designed it, and so I like was walking down the street. I'm like, hey, how do you like that? And we just struck up a conversation about hard hats.
Yeah,
and I'm like, golly, dude, I'm such a nerd on this stuff.
It's fun.
So
it's
much
cool.
fun.
Yeah. I was traveling to one of these Bluebeam live events. I'm at the airport, and I'm just walking through, and there's someone who had their laptop open, and they had review open.
You're like, hey.
And of course,
you know
I did.
Who I am?
I'm like, no. Hey, so of course, there's no way for me to do this and not just be a total geek.
Of course,
but I don't care. I say, hey, so you're using Bluebeam? He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Yeah. So are you going to the conference? It's free. He's like, no, just I'm like, cool. What do you do? And we had a very brief chat. It was fine, but it was kind of one of those moments of like, why are you stopping me in the airport to talk about this app I'm using? But he said, yeah, no, it's cool. I like it. I'm like, that's great. I do remember there are a lot of users that just like to use the app and love it. They're not wanting to talk to me in the airport about it, which is fine. But I'll still approach them.
Good things can happen from those types of conversations, though. I mean, our editor Cook. That's the reason I found him. Is there was a dude. He was like on his laptop, and I was like, "Hey, are you using Premiere?" We struck up a conversation, and I was like, "Hey, I need an editor for this thing." And then we met Tyler Cook through that whole conversation.
Love that.
Those conversations are the best, man. They're such a little connective tissue. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Sidebar.
Yeah. No, I remember going to one of the conferences and seeing a guy that was using Bluebeam, but then I didn't want to be the creepy guy that was peering over people's shoulders on the plane, looking at what they're doing on their laptop. So I didn't say anything, and I lost that opportunity.
Well, a lot of good
that's the end of my story.
Thanks, Grandpa. Appreciate that. That's wonderful.
So that's where my story's over. And then I found $5.
You had brought up something the other day, even during our call, where we were talking about kind of some of what's going to happen in 2025. Some of these different things that are changing. Yeah. And so, of course, I was racking my brain on this question. I'm ready for it. I'm like, okay, if Luke asks us this question, what's my answer to it? Okay. And I figured it out. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay. It's 2025 is going to be the year of, I'm going to say the word. I'm going to say it. BIM and AI coming together. I'm going to say those two things. All right. I think we've got a bit of an issue finding BIM people who can drive that process, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're going to struggle to find those people, so we're going to have to automate even more. And now that we have more tools, more tooling, like ChatGPT is kind of opening up that door, and some others like DALL-E and all these. You guys as well, looking at that, and you're implementing AI into your apps. Yeah. People are going to start leveraging that and putting that into their software apps. I think that 2025 is going to be the initial spark of that because it's a necessity. Because finding the people to drive the software to model everything. Totally. If we don't have the people in BIM, we can't drive the robots. And that was another thing that I saw the other day when I was out there hanging out with Brian Nickel, is that and talking to one of their BIM guys, it's like, hey man, how are you finding people to model in Revit? Yeah. He's like, it's really difficult because, and he was an apprentice before then too. So he had 8 years under his belt, and then he had switched over into BIM. So he's an expert in this over here, but then he switched over to BIM. It's how do you replicate those people? It's going to take a lot of time. So I think AI is going to be that thing that starts to fill the gap a little bit to help with some of that shortage. Because we need it. We're building crazy right now. Yeah, absolutely. So that's my answer to that question.
No, I love that. Yeah. I think one of our responses to BIM is absolutely yes and. It's that we have to meet our users where they're at, and they've been very clear with us about their expectations for Bluebeam. Yeah. And we're in day-to-day project execution mode where we're in 2D PDFs. We need to execute this project with this set of parameters. Great. Mm-hmm. We have to keep building that. Oh, and by the way, what do things look like 5 years from now? Right. So we have to prepare for that too. Yeah. So there's almost two things happening at once in a way. Yeah. Where we're still actively investing in helping users get to their files, their markups, their collaboration needs, right where they are on whatever devices they're on. That's really important. Yeah. Just because so many and it was great going to the user conferences. You're just reminded so much of what just the needs are in day-to-day activity. I need to be in the field. I need to take a photo. Yeah. I need to send it to somebody else. We need to comment on it. Yeah. We need markups as quickly and efficiently as possible. Mm-hmm. Totally independent of the model. Yeah. Right. As a thing. Oh, and by the way, we need this all connected at some point into a model. Yeah. So that's another aspect that I think there's really cool opportunities. So we have this this separate R&D group that is building out things related to intelligent drawings, where we can extract out information out of a 2D PDF and make it smarter, let's say. Right now, a PDF is essentially just line work in a way.
Yeah.
It's lost a lot of the intelligence that it potentially had when it was originally in some authoring application that was published. What are some of the tools and methods to bring that back to the end users without them necessarily even having to have access to the model?
Yeah.
But how can they get enough information they need to do their job successfully?
Yeah.
So we're looking at all that.
Yeah, dude. It's
going to be great. It's exciting. I love that insight, though. What brought you to that?
Well, I mean, it was partially a visit that I made to a shop this past week, you know, and talking to a guy. I was, you know, and I'll give a shout out to Ben. He's up at Inglet and Stubbs. I was talking to him, and he apprenticed coming in, and I want to get him on the show. I think he'd be a ton of fun to talk to. And
talking to users, he'd be a great product manager.
Right. So like he came in and we were talking about BIM, and I'm like, how is it hiring people? Are you having a hard time?
Yeah.
And then I'm also looking over at this robot, and I know for a fact, like if we are going to get the productivity gains that this robot offers, we have to have something in 3D at least.
Yeah. Tell me about this robot. What does the robot do?
So this one was a Kripa machine. Okay. So essentially it's for electrical contractors. They're bending conduit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they had 4-inch conduit. You believe this? This is crazy. So if you look up in the ceiling, the conduit, and you see it waving and stuff like that, it's still being manually or hydraulically bent.
Right.
And even the hydraulically bent is manual.
Yeah.
Like it's pull a tape, mark it, bend it, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so 4-point saddle, which this is all new terminology to me, so you guys don't beat me up too hard. But like, so essentially the conduit goes out, goes down, comes down, basically 4 points, 4
Makes
bends,
sense.
right?
Right.
That manual process takes an hour.
Oh my gosh.
About 15 minutes per bend.
Yeah.
To manually bend a 4-point saddle. When you put it in a robot, like a Kripa machine, 40 seconds.
Wild.
To knock that whole thing out.
Did you watch it? Was it running? Oh, cool.
Dude, it's wild.
Yeah.
And so like, to me, I'm like, we just saved an hour or 59 minutes, right? Like we saved a ton of time by doing that. But in order to get that productivity gain, we have to have the modeled assets in place and be able to export it out so that the machine can read it.
That's right.
Print it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have to be built to spec.
And they have to be built to spec. So, but like getting the stuff specified right and like having the knowledge of like how it all is going together needs to go back into the model even more. I just feel like it's just trending in that direction. Like the models, the models drive the robots, and that's an area that that's where it came to me. I'm like, dude, like we're gonna have to have something that bridges that, because we don't have enough people to run intelligently the BIM side of things to drive the robotics to find that productivity gain.
Right.
So that marriage, I think there's a spark, I think, that's starting to happen in 25. I don't think it's not going to be complete, but at least we're going to start seeing that and kind of see it merge together more and more.
Yeah, I love
I'm excited
that.
to see what comes out.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah. Whether you wanted it or not, I gave it to you. There you go. There's the answer.
We've been saying for years around here that BIM, like the real important letter is the I. The information is the key, but I feel like for years we focused on the building and the model, the building and the modeling. And if we are in a mode, if people are realizing that the information is, well, I think that's going across the board. I mean, we're realizing information about our built environment is very valuable.
Yeah.
As our as-built environment.
Right.
We're realizing that information that Teslas are picking up going down the street and how accurate and current that information is like a race now.
Yeah,
right. Who can have the most current roadside view of that place. Yeah. So gathering information and then all of the information problems that come out of that, like, I mean, big data. Yeah. It's like, it's a whole thing. Like we're collecting on everything. So you go back to like, I'm collecting all the data that comes out of a, engine and a jet. That's filling servers. Yeah. And so the information explosion that we're having now, where everything's producing information.
Yeah.
Now we're having to deal with it. It's a thing.
I think what I think will be really interesting, and this is probably something where it's fun to be part of the Bluebeam participation in this, is that, and this is probably much longer term, but the idea of connected markups, where today markups are basically the result of someone's idea on a PDF, and it's there. Now you can run a report on it and other people can see it and comment on it. But it's kind of this event that takes place in time. It's the deposit of this person's opinion or input. There's a future reality where that's just one connected stream, and that markup has a relationship across multiple systems, before it's all happening, through a tool chest saving modality, all the way out through a reporting mechanism, or even feeding into other systems. I think that's the reality of where things are going, where the technology is either being built or is in place to start to allow for that degree of connection, so that and especially our users, depending on the type of users we're talking about, but many of our users expect for those annotations to not just be the static end of that, but actually be more of an active throughput into other things. So that's really, I think, the broader term direction of where that's going. What it looks like can be a few different things.
Yeah.
But we want to move past, like, I wrote something on a PDF and I slid it across the table to you.
Right.
Now you're kind of on your own to do it. Now you pick it up in Bluebeam and you kind of go do something else with it. But we want that just to be a connected, so that it can carry that information with it if that is the primary use case that someone wants to do.
I mean, you guys, at the end of the day, you're an information sharing platform, right? Like that is what you do, which is awesome. Like, and I being the biggest part of BIM, like, you guys have a big part of that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe not in the 3D sense, but oh my gosh, in the other ways, like, you guys are so critical to being able to pass that stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
Because we modeled every day, but at the end of the day, we still had to communicate in 2D. We still had to communicate with PDFs back to everybody.
Yeah.
So on the note of, like, future developments and things,
sure.
Like, we've heard a few of them on the Broad Show.
Okay, yeah.
This is just give us an idea of what's coming down the pipeline for you guys. Like, what's coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're under the larger set of initiatives, even philosophy we're calling Bluebeam Anywhere. And the whole idea is that the best parts of Bluebeam that you need to access, things like tool sets, tool chest, your files and sessions and projects, would be available across, obviously, review on desktop, mobile, web, iOS, Android, also through API endpoints. The whole idea is that no matter where you're working or what you're doing, you can get to your information and your files and your people. The biggest bit of feedback that we've heard from customers is that it has to be PDFs in, it has to be PDFs out. And when I'm on a PDF, I have to have my tool sets. Those have to be PDF ISO standard markups, which is pretty important for us, but it's also really hard from a technical implementation standpoint. So what we're doing is we're bringing all the sort of that standard set of markups and annotations that users have come to expect out of Bluebeam Review on a PC. We're bringing that to web, and then also to iOS and Android, so that no matter whichever platform you're on, you can access the work you need. Now, tied into that, there's a whole suite of IT administration tools that come into that for better access and control over who can do what and when. There's a suite of innovation tools that we're building out in a sort of our separate R&D group that can work to bring those, we call that mainlining, bring those new solutions to market through our core products. And then ultimately, it all centers around collaboration. And so the whole idea is that our users, by virtue of the fact that they're in Bluebeam on a PDF, there's expectation that it's collaborative. The fact that the P in PDF is portable has this sort of homage to, I have an expectation that I'm going to share this with somebody at some point.
Yeah.
Or somebody shared it with me.
Yeah.
Right? And so there is an inherent sort of ubiquity about the collaboration that we have to kind of continue to play along with, which is really fun. It's challenging, but this is where we think we can get our customers working in ways that they haven't been able to work before. specifically on their core set of construction documents, plans, specs, drawings, spinning that stuff up in the field, accessing what they need, sharing that out and connecting it even to other systems. So our customers have really sort of entrusted us as this hub in a way of like all things in and out. And so they've said to us, like, we need you to integrate into the other construction management apps that we're using. And we're working on that. We've got great partners that we're working with to get those connections there. So I think the market and the end users expect us to be the front end of construction in a way, right? Where they know they can be the 6 to 8 hour users, but they know that the work that they're doing within the Bluebeam technology stack is being accessed in other places as effectively as possible. So they're not having to like save a file down and re-upload into something else or jump from one platform to another. Now I don't have my markups. I want my markups. So I'm really hopeful because I think it's going to be a future where the stuff that you are used to using typically within Bluebeam on your desktop, you're going to see it in other places. And it's going to be like, oh, that's that thing I made. And that's exactly what I need when I need it.
What's a common nudge you're giving customers? Like what's a common, maybe like, let me give you a tip, kid. Like move in this direction. That's really going to help your cause. Like, is there one that comes up a bit?
Yeah. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think the biggest thing is the whole industry is investing in the future. And the more that our customers are actively investing in their future, which they are, which is awesome, the more we're partnering to sort of build the better technology landscape, more efficient, safer, better ways of working. Just even what you described is like going and observing how a robot can change the way in which 4-inch conduit is bent is this sort of exploration of what needs to happen or what can be. We have an incredible group of product managers, designers, engineers that are just obsessed with trying to think about what, let's say, 2028 looks like. And that's really exciting. And we have some incredible customers who are right there with us. If I could nudge anyone in any direction, let's think about 2028. Like that's where we want to go. And I just kind of pick that year somewhat generically.
Yeah.
Because we collectively can move the industry into new directions. And I think maybe let's say 10 years ago, there was a little bit more of like a land grab of like, there were going to be certain competitors in certain areas. And I think there is certainly still some of that. But I think now more than ever, we realize that there's just so much opportunity. And our customers have said to us, like, the story is not about replacing or duplicative technology. The story is about integration. And it's about connecting into other applications. So I think that's probably the biggest opportunity. The other thing too, and just as a trend of what we're seeing a lot more firms, not as big as the biggest firms, start to have development teams that are able to use off-the-shelf APIs, webhooks, and connectors for building out integrations. And I love that. It's sort of a new era of let's say, again, maybe 10 years ago, that was limited to a more of an elite group of firms that could afford that. But there's also, what this is fueling is it's also fueling more off-the-shelf integrations. It's also fueling more innovation. So I'm incredibly optimistic about it, especially because I feel like there's more incentive and motivation to integrate and for interoperability than there is for building duplicative technology and trying to go toe-to-toe to replace something else that's already there. And I love that.
Integrations is where it's at, man. Like I think that speaking from my time in industry every single day, like if I had this that was able to talk to that, oh my gosh, man, it made my life so much easier.
Right.
And so often you do see people, I think in product land saying, nope, this is the line. We're not going to let people cross it, you know? And what I like is that you guys are being like, we want to connect back to these other tools that you guys are using to make sure that your entire workflow is streamlined. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I might be getting over my skis on this, but we are actually just a few months away from releasing our first version of a markup API.
Nice.
And this is going to allow someone to programmatically query the markup metadata out of all of their studio sessions. So you can imagine what some of the things you could do with this. You could say, All right, every day I want a digest of various sessions. I want to click on this could be like a Teams integration as an example, right?
Going on, yeah.
I want to see what are the open issues, what are the open statuses on things. As part of that, we'll also allow for the programmatic updating of statuses. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to build a UI of some form in another app that lets you set a status on a markup in a studio session, you could do that. So you don't have to do that within review itself. This is again part of that Bluebeam Anywhere story.
Yeah, could you use that to program your own AI as well, like internally for your company? So whereas like, what is the main issue that we have on every single job?
Yeah.
Like we always get this question every single time.
Yeah. They're your markups.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was at a conversation with a customer, and there was a senior engineer who had passed. And they said that we've got 30 years plus of his comments.
Wow.
And we source it. We go into his old comments and we look at things, and some of it's still on paper, some of it's scans, but they're basically saying he was one of the best in the industry for building these really complex structural specifications. And so there was just these questions about what does it look like to bring that person's knowledge to a new generation of users.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much to explore and so much to understand. So, but the whole idea that you can now query your markups out of sessions is awesome. So it's a big leap for the industry, and we're thrilled to offer it and bring it. Another layer beyond that, which is going to be further down the line, would be markup generation. That's sort of a whole separate set of circumstances and things that have to happen there.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure.
How much can you talk about there?
No, absolutely. Yeah, right. Yeah. So think of a markup as really being sort of two main aspects. There's the actual generation of the markup within a very specific space on let's just say a 2D sheet. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. And then underneath that, you've got all the standard metadata and then custom metadata. So the standard metadata being the author, the date, the time, the color, maybe a comment on it. If it's a measurement, it's 50 square feet. Mm-hmm. And then you may have some custom data that you've added on there that's sort of unique to your project, maybe a unique layer or a custom column for a signee or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those are sort of two separate buckets. This first phase is really the ability to go and query the existing metadata of the markup and then also update the status.
Okay.
Now, in the future, there's also this idea of, well, what if I want to update other metadata about the markup? I want to post a URL to a column associated with a markup, or I want to programmatically change some of the properties of that markup. And then when you get a level further, there's this notion of saying, well, what if I know some various things about the drawing? Let's say I run a search on something. Could I then programmatically mark up that drawing with various markups based on something that I searched through maybe an AI model? Or other integration partners could potentially take markups and publish those onto drawings using various parameters based on what they can find in the drawings or use. So there's a whole set of opportunities that doesn't necessarily require the user to go into a sheet, find a specific area, draw a cloud around that area.
So kind of the thing that we had in that little video that we did was you going through and marking up TC bolts is the thing that I was just thinking of is like...
Yeah, so how did you find those, right? That's where you start,
yeah,
right?
You start and you're scribbling. Even even where it's at right now, we can do a search.
Yep.
We can still find that data, but being able to ping it even further and say like, are they all TC bolts?
Right.
And it's able to tell you, no, go over here and look at this versus you having by eye to go in and look for every single detail.
Yeah.
Or look at every single detail, even with the search.
And I should call out too, this is like super long-term kind of stuff. That is, I guess you could say, technically is not near-term roadmap, but is the direction that we're going and building in.
Yeah.
Mostly because we feel like we want to unlock the market to access markups in a new way. And right now, the access point for markups is a user within the confines of a PC. Yeah. And that's been great for however many years. And the next evolution of that is that plus.
That makes my brain hurt with all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like a city planner.
Doesn't take much to make his brain hurt.
A drawing review. You know how they like email can be scanned for trigger words.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe I want to ingest documentation, but I want to make sure that if there's a trigger word that I'm going, I need to pay attention to that. So managerially, that's coming back up to a dashboard that I built in an API or a piece of software that I built in an API that's scanning a number of different projects.
Yeah.
And then as a manager, I'm actually isolating my attention down to the places where I say, oh, that when this trigger word happens, bad things happen behind it. I'm going to get ahead of that now, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be a little more predictive in my management of that.
Yep.
And the search function is amazing. Mm-hmm. The ability to search for something by just grabbing an image and searching for a repetitious symbol.
Those are things
amazing.
You can do right now.
You can do that right now.
Yeah.
The ability to now, and this is what we're talking about, right? Where you can come up a layer.
Yep, exactly.
And we're going to come up one more layer. And we're going to say not only in that document, but also in this group of documents.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And so the ability to do that is...
Yeah. AI can understand context better than just a regular search function, right? The regular search function is just like, well, yeah, you told me to search for TC. Here are all the places it says TC. AI is then able to say, okay, I'm going to find all the things that say TC, but what are the other things there? So it can use some more logic behind it to save you even more time.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing that's been fundamental about Bluebeam. We are an unopinionated, flexible application. It's just a gray screen when you open it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it says to the user, you tell me what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to do it? You want to measure something? Sure. But you can measure whatever you want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like we have customers that built out these custom column structures for measuring flow rates of gallons per minute through lines because they use custom columns. And that's, oh, cool. We didn't build it for that specifically. We built custom columns that allow for math calculations and equations within a measurement.
Yeah.
But we didn't expect someone, I talked to a user in the UK that uses measurements to measure the rate of water flow off of a roof based on the pitch and the gutters and the scuppers. Scuppers, right.
Yeah, scupper.
Scupper,
it's
right?
Scupper.
Yeah, the downspout, the scuppers.
Yeah, it's the scupper.
And all of that. So, and that's what's so exciting because every time we talk to a customer, it's like, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, cool. I love that use case. That's awesome. That's exactly what it is designed to empower. And I think also too, we've lost some of that in a lot of the specialization of apps that we have. There are so many great apps that just do one thing really well. And I love that. I think that's awesome. And we also have customers that have to solve these really crazy, ridiculous problems every day. And it was never like a problem they saw before. And now they need a tool to kind of help kind of be flexible enough with them. So the Swiss Army knife analogy gets used a lot. And I think it's fairly apt. But all that to say, when you talk about sort of going up another layer, who knows, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're just going to build the tooling and the opportunities.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where the market takes it. And that's going to be the most exciting part. Yeah. And our customers are pulling for us to win. We're pulling for our customers. So I feel like we're all in a really good spot to sort of bring this new reality. Just a matter of executing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the hard part, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be also interesting to see like what other technologies come out that influence some of what you guys do in your product roadmap.
Yep.
Like things that have just come out of left field. You're like, oh crap, that happened faster than I thought it would.
Sure. No, sure, for sure.
Yeah. And we're seeing a ton of stuff with AI right now floating out there in the space. So I don't know. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah.
I'm also excited that you guys have looked at that and are integrating that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be freaking gold.
Yeah.
Huge.
No, it's really cool.
So many
there's a couple interesting initiatives happening right now. One, there's a whole intelligent search project that's happening. Obviously, AI is, and we've seen this obviously outside of construction and design, that AI is a pretty good tool for searching.
Yeah.
So we're incorporating that within the studio project's context. Okay. So obviously, file metadata, content, that'll extend to markups.
Yeah.
But helping to, Don has a good analogy. It's sort of servicing the needle to the top of the haystack more so than trying to find the needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
So that's going to be awesome. And that's in flight. It's in our labs right now that users can access. Other areas that we're actively working on is this intelligent drawing concept, where there's computer vision algorithms that can understand some of the line work that's happening on the drawing. So we shipped this feature called auto align, which basically can take two of the same floor plans or details, but might be in different scale, and auto scale them on top of each other.
Freaking best.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Freaking best.
If you click, when you set the auto line, they just go boink and they stack. It's pretty neat. So now imagine though, this technology knows some things about the lines. We'll just kind of say that, right? Very simple. We're actively working on right now a feature we're calling stitching. And so a lot of our infrastructure, heavy civil customers work on these sort of long layouts of road work or pipelines or infrastructure of any sort. And they span multiple PDFs. And we've watched customers do it. And it's just, there's typically a project engineer on a Friday afternoon has to sit there for hours and do snapshots. They have to resize them and put them all together. Yeah. We're building out, we're using that same technology to identify matched lines and devise sections to bring those all together into a single view relatively automatically. Now, the first version of it is there'll be some user assist where they'll define the regions and define the matched lines, but it'll like kind of snap these things together and stitch them out into a single PDF. But it's going to be probably potentially one of the biggest reductions in single user input time.
Yeah.
To value in a way as a measure than that we've shipped in a long time.
Industrial's big on that too, like taking little sections and just like having multiple sections to make up this one floor.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly, right. So, or a common floor plate that would be like a quad.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly that.
I mean, I remember getting super confused whenever I first started because you didn't have the context of like the whole building there.
That's
it's just like a piece of it, and then you would forget and you'd get lost in it. So like it makes sense to stitch it all together. Yeah. But the auto stitch.
That way here's one match line, here's another match line. So just bring them together. Yeah. Right. So that's the general idea. Yeah.
Nice.
The implications for overlay and compare
Yeah.
are like, I mean, those are tools that we use a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the ability to now auto align.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Having done, was it 100 plus Wawas?
Yeah,
where it was like it's the same job, very simple.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there would be differences, and that's the thing is like one prototype they might just making a revision on it, like they found this thing that was really difficult, and so I remember having to go through and do the overlays on that. And occasionally they would just take the entire model on the sheet and just go and like just scooch it over.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you're picking points and
you're doing the points and all that stuff, which is like fine. We can still do it, but it's still a time consuming process. Right. And I would have to do that on every individual page versus just saying, go do this.
I mean, our end users are still the lifeblood of Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Like hands down, we absolutely love our users. And I guess I say that like, we don't just love them because they use our app. Because there's a sense there that we have a degree of responsibility to that, but our users are building and designing the most incredible things on the planet.
Yeah,
like it's amazing. Like we are in awe of whenever we get into those conversations about the actual content of the drawing and the construction docs.
Yeah,
it's incredible what's being built and designed and how people are able to build now. Yeah. It's that sort of like. It's the thing that keeps me up at night, knowing that there's this extent of responsibility for how our customers expect to work. But at the same time, it's like we are continuing to invest in the things that users click on.
Yeah.
It's part of it. We have other investment areas, things like IT admins are a big portion of our product roadmap, as well as innovation and international expansion, and high security is another area too that we're working on.
Yeah.
But really, when it comes down to end user functionality, it's like that's the thing that users love to come to the conferences about and like raise their hand at 8:30 on a Tuesday morning to talk about some keyboard shortcut that people are like, oh yeah, and they're like writing down, I got to use that. You know, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
People like showing off their projects too. Do you have a favorite? Do you have like a project that Bluebeam was used on that like really sticks out in your mind?
Yes, I do. So there's a couple that I want to describe. So one, we at Bluebeam Live, we had the group that was doing the construction management for the Austin school district. And I'm going to get my numbers wrong, but I think it's something around $4 billion of bond money over the course of about 10 years that was approved by City of Austin voters for a huge, expansive update of virtually every K through 12 facility, I think, throughout the City of Austin. And it was all run through studio sessions, tool sets and collaboration and all that. And we met the team that did it, and they were thrilled to talk about the roadmap, things we're doing with tool set syncing and administration of users through org admin and all that stuff. And it was great. But it was also really fun to go back to my engineering team that like have kids in Austin in those schools. And I'm like, like that thing you built was used by the people that built the school that your daughter is in, right?
Yeah,
it was kind of fun connection to help tie that story. It's so easy to just lose that, especially working remotely too. You lose the connection of either if you're in the day-to-day of testing or producing, that there's people on the other side of that. Even too in building, right? I mean, you get to the point where you kind of forget that reality.
Yeah.
And then other ones too. Just in Burbank, there's a big movie studio project just right off the 101, and the company I used to work at did a big job there. I've got friends who I used to work with in various contexts that worked on it, and it's just fun to see that like there are tools there that are in place because of the efforts of like the engineering team. Said, okay, we're going to bring this thing to reality. We're going to make this happen. And like there are features, this sounds so simple to say, there are features that did not exist 5 years ago, that there were some very bright people that got together and said, let's figure out how to build this thing. And I feel like I'm along for the ride in some extent, right? Yeah. And then those things get built and then they get applied. And then you go to these site visits and they show you this feature. Oh, hey, I love this feature. It's really cool. And you don't even say anything. You're just like, like there's some people that, I know the people that did that. and that's really fun to kind of make that connection and see it all come full circle. And then you run into somebody at the airport and they're just kind of like, no, I just use the tool. I'm like, oh, that's cool too. That's fine. No big deal. Awesome. No big deal. Yeah.
See, this was a fun conversation for sure today.
This is great.
I love all this. Hey, so I want to hit you with our favorite question though.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So megaphone question.
Megaphone question.
Megaphone question.
Okay.
So if we gave you a megaphone and around 60 seconds to say something to the whole construction industry.
Yeah.
What would you want to say? And this is like that, like high level, like this is something that you're just like, you get last chance to soapbox on for the whole industry.
Yeah. There is a whole group of us at Bluebeam that are obsessed with helping you do things better. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to do. There's a whole group of us at Bluebeam that are obsessed with helping you work better. We have the utmost respect for how hard it is to do your work. The safety concerns, the early mornings, the commutes, the traffic, the dirt, the miscommunication, the coordination. It is really, really hard work. And we entrust the responsibility you've given us, and we will absolutely deliver on a new future with you together. So that's my pitch.
Nice.
That's my pitch, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thanks for driving all the way down here. Well, not driving, but I guess you flew in and then you drove a bunch. But, thanks for traveling.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be here.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.